G'day fixers and welcome back to the workshop. Today we are tackling the drill press stand, or really this will be good for any mobile tool that's not too heavy. Going to be a couple of drawers, I whacked up some quick plans in SketchUp, and if you'd like to get a copy of them, I'll put a link in the description below. The first part we're going to start is from the ground up. I am half lapping my favourite bed slats into about a 45 by 50 centimetre frame. I only want to have glue in this section because I'm going to screw wheels in eventually and a bit of other hardware, so don't want any bits of metal I'll have to worry about. This is my quick method for making the half laps, not the most accurate, but this is a workshop project, so it's going to be all scrap and all dodgy. After clearing away most of the waste with the miter saw and a hammer, we just wedge in on the router sled and clear out the rest to about halfway through. No screws, just the glue, as we said, to keep this lovely and metal free. Half laps are pretty good at self-alignment, but no harm with some check square action. And now we can move on up the frame, and these will be the main wall components. So I'm going to be building these walls with some shaker style inlays, kind of like I did with the storage for the tracks on my workbench here. Primarily pocket holes going to be used for the rest of the construction. The only slightly tricky bit to do here is that I'm making another faux half lap joint at the top. So while the bottom one gets screwed in flush like this, the top one I've got a 19mm offset in order to have that half lap later on. It'll make sense as we go. As we said, shaker style, which means inlaying a panel. This is just a great project for using up all the bits of scrap. I think this is about 17mm leftover plywood that I've had, but the bits are just really small and awkward. So having these inlaid shaker frames, I can use multiple pieces and get rid of some small stuff that's been lying around the workshop. I opted to round over the corners, just finding a little bottle that was about the same as my rebating bit. And then there's no accuracy required here, so I just grabbed out the sandpaper on the angle grinder to crudely make those fit into position. And this is what I mean about the multiple pieces. Of course, one piece would be much easier, but this will let me get rid of those small, awkward bits. Not too much glue in this project, but I will put these in. Cut in a third piece to fit nicely, no one's going to know. Then we grab Presto the nail gun. Thanks Glenn for jumping on the membership. He's now sponsoring my favourite little taka, and you're going to get sick of Hey Presto jokes by the end of this video. Now those sides are all done, made two of them of course. I can pull the base out of the clamps and simply screw the two sides on from underneath with some dirty great big screws. The back and the front are just going to have some slight structural supports, but there is one more panel to go in. So here is the base of the back of the cabinet. Put another one of those up top. Again, just put down slightly to allow the half rebate so that that piece of 19mm can be screwed in. Then we flip it on its side. Pull it out chopper Chris. And the back panel can be cut to shape just like the two sides. Though this one comes in from the back instead of from the inside. Ironically, the back panel was a solid piece. Taka. One more bed slat across the front, and we've got a fairly sturdy frame. And that's what those half lap rebates were for. More scrap for the floor, and my pile of leftover ply was depleting nicely. Right, that's the carcass taken care of. Now let's do some drawers. First time using these Kreg drawer slide installers, and honestly it probably wasn't any faster, but now I know how to use them. Going forward, they're going to be a great little addition for this fiddly job. That's me lining the drawer front up to the front of the carcass like you should. Then I changed my mind and decided to get tricky and put them in slightly, and then later on I had to reverse this. So just keep it simple, stupid. Don't worry about anything but lining up to the front. I was actually starting to run out of sheet goods, but fortunately I had these offcut pieces from the melamine top of my clamping bench, and I was able to get some drawer sides and fronts out of them. Chopper Chris in the rip cut makes this a simple repetitive cut job. Basically these drawer boxes are going to help me use up this melamine stuff. Now I hate melamine, I don't like using it, gives you sharp edges, I couldn't be bothered edge banding, but in order to make sure it doesn't end up in the scrap bin, it does make good drawer boxes. Not quite the Dave Stanton method here, he does a nice solid melamine drawer. Because I didn't want to lose too much depth and I didn't have pieces big enough to form the bases, I'm going to make these drawers pretty much like I made the shaker sides. Screwed them all together, then found this very, very convenient sized piece of 9mm ply, about 3/8 of an inch, to form the bottoms. Kevin the sander helps to clean that up a little bit. And then with a rebating bit and the safety pin in the router table, we can have the incredibly messy task of putting that rebate around at the bottom. And this time I opted to actually square off the cut rather than round off the corners. Be very careful doing this with melamine so I don't blow out. Chopping the base piece in half. What a nice tight fit. And again, the glue and presto method, tack, 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 tack. Slide them on in here and you can see I'm still stuffing around with the bloody setback drawer slides. Don't do that. But I am liking the Kreg drawer slide installers. They do come into their own when you flip the drawer around like this. It makes it really easy. You don't even have to detach the second part of the drawer. Right, for the drawer fronts, I'm using my patented double 45-degree chamfer top and bottom to avoid using hardware. Again, I didn't have any bits of 19mm MDF long enough, so we pocket holed a few of those together. Then created clouds of dust, putting the chamfers on, and because I did this before doing the top, it was actually quite an easy install for the drawer fronts. So they'll get a coat of workshop blue, and I again am a tight ass, avoid paying for hardware with those little chamfer drawer pulls underneath. Alright, even more scrappy crappy getting used up. These awkward shaped IKEA melamine, ugh, look at that rubbish. Absolute crappy MDF stuff is good enough for the top. So we cut out a square from the last of it and then just screwed it in from underneath. Speaking of crappy, these are the Audi wheels that cost me $10 for the set. While they were pretty rubbish and I replaced them with the good Carbotech ones on my clamping workbench, they were perfect for this little cart. So they do have their place, just not on anything too heavy. I actually cut my little square a bit oversized so that I could come back with the flush trim router and just size it off, and don't run your finger along melamine, you get cuts. This was a golden score. They are the bullnoses that I cut off a couple of bed slats earlier on, and they're going to make a perfect addition for the trim. This is why I hold on to this sort of stuff. You never know when it's going to come in handy. Couldn't be bothered doing fancy miters this time. We are just simply butt jointing, and hey presto, we've got ourselves some edge trim. Bit of flush trim, bit of sandpaper, and I put a bit of wax around there too to finish. Righty, time to screw on the drill press. My little Bosch PBD40 is the whole reason why we made this mobile tool cart. However, anything that you can fit on here would be pretty good, fairly handy. Use the Vicks bit to pilot hole through, and then make the clearance for the bolts. I actually picked up a nice bolt kit from Bunnings. It's about $20, a couple of hundred pieces in there. Really handy for this sort of stuff. That's nice and secure. However, it needs to live here. and that's currently a whole bunch of crap that needs to find a new home. The Makita hardcase will live down there. That was part of the reasoning for the dimensions that the mobile cart is. But it does mean that this section of the workshop is being taken over by actual workshop stuff, which is nice. There should be enough space to do smaller jobs with the cart just in that position. When I don't have the room, I'll be able to roll it out and use it in the middle of the workshop. Clicking in the drawers and a bit of splash magic, and there with lovely workshop glue. For now, these are going to hold all of the bits that are going to go with the drill press, hole saws, Forstner bits and so on. In the future I might make some inserts, but yeah, good enough for today. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this gives you some ideas for mobile tool carts of your own. Don't forget, there are links to the plans below. Give us a thumbs up and a subscribe if you found it useful, and I'll catch you on the next one.